Hey, it's Tom Llewellyn with Civil. I haven't been on video in a while. We were doing a bunch, one a week, especially during the last campaign, presidential and off year's campaign. And I got onto some other things. I was doing a couple of books and, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Cordero Holmes, one of the principals of Civil, said, you haven't done any videos. I kind of miss it. It's quick, easy information. I don't have to read a book or anything, although he's an avid reader. So I thought, maybe I'll start doing something, maybe bi-weekly, maybe monthly, and just take up some subjects that are on everybody's mind, right? Well, and I don't know if this one's on everybody's mind, but it was mine, DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and I guess there's a new letter now, Belonging. Not sure what that means. But, along the way, especially over the last, let's say 2 or 3 decades, in the background, there's always been this, not so much institutional DNI, it's been affirmative action for what it's worth. For anybody that knows about the court case last year where the court said, trying to give an advantage to any race is inappropriate, whether it's white or black or Hispanic or anything, and they overturned affirmative action. A DEI is just affirmative action with different letters. It's pretty much the same thing. What the court was getting at, and it goes back 20 years to Sandra Day O'Connor when they affirmed affirmative action. Sandra Day said, look, we can't do this more than 20 years. We should be in good shape and whatever. After 20 years, because this is racist, basically. You're basically segmenting out a portion of society by whatever reason and saying we're going to give these people preferential treatment. Well, that's the definition of racism, right? It's terrible. So, so I think wisely, and people didn't like it, but wisely, the courts said, no, you can't do this anymore, which I think is great. Now, I would note in that time frame, there, I would say in a less formal way, people in corporations, people in clubs, people in everything, we're naturally doing what people do. They adapt. We're becoming vastly less prejudiced. We're becoming vastly less racist, and although there are people out there, right? But the idea was, especially, I worked for AT&T in the 90s, and we did counts, and to make sure, that we had a good representation, because we knew that was healthy for us, because our customers had one of everything as well. So we better too, right? And it was important that, that you hire the best and brightest from all kinds of people, because there are so few great people. And then the people in those jobs, I was mediocre as bad. There was loads of great people, excellent, smart, high social IQs, really good folks, and so you can't just say, oh, we're going to cut off this segment and not hire from there. You can't afford to. You cannot afford to, right? And so that informality, wound up in law. Then we had affirmative action, not quotas, but affirmative action, tried to give a helping hand. Some of that is okay, but it's obviously can be very racist, right? Which is not what we're trying to do. Now, DEI, the centerpiece, probably, I think this is the guy's name, Kinde Kotes. He's a Harvard guy, and started a whole kind of NGO that's all about what DEI became. He published a book called The Anti-Racist, or rather, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I haven't read it yet. It's in the library. I've seen it in nonfiction. It's on my list. I want to read it because I kind of want to know what the guy thinks. Delightfully, while I'm searching the catalog, I discover there's 2 children's books. A board book, which is like 1 to 2 years old, maybe 3, and a picture book called The Anti-Racist Baby. Now, I don't know how many kids you know, but kids at that age are just trying to figure out how to play with each other and have fun, right? Their main character builder is, do we know how to have fun together? They don't care what color you are. They do not care at all. Well, maybe you have a racist parent going, don't talk to that kid, but and here's another unfortunate thing for me. I live in Scottsdale, and I've worked for technology companies for 40 years. And it's just, if there's racism, there's so little nobody that's racist is going to open their mouth, right? You don't have that kind of herd, you have herd immunity. Well, same kind of thing when you're talking about ideas that just don't, they don't work in the society you're working in. So, anyway, so I figured, well, I'll just read the short version. The board book's only like less than 20 pages probably. And so I read through it, and I'm not just a little shocked. I'm totally shocked. It's just so racist. From my education, from my background, from my reading, I'm looking at it going, if this is the reasoning you're using, you're a racist. It's just nuts. So he starts the book with, you don't want to be colorblind. In general, I guess that's okay. When it comes to seeing things in the world, it's not an absolute requirement. But he takes it a little different view. He goes, well, look at the spectrum. The spectrum is filled with different colors, right? And wow, those colors are great. They're all different. Science treats each color differently, right? So we have to treat people that are differently. What's the essence of racism? It's like, we're going to treat everybody differently. It's crazy. I mean, one of the meetings, and the reason this is kind of a topic now, this DEI thing is part of a public institution that I work for. Just so you know, great people, wonderful people. But the DEI department that started as just talking about when I got hired, diversity, inclusion, and warmth, and it sounded like a club, which was an okay idea. But then wound up in my performance specs. And it's just like in one of the trainings talking about a book, everybody's focused on the differences the person had, and I get to it and I can just feel the DEI group kind of hanging over me, and it's kind of like, look, you guys, we don't need to focus on our differences. We need to focus on our similarities, regardless of race, creed, color, whatever. And literally the library is that group. There's one of everybody, right? Which is wonderful. I don't know how that went over, but when it wound up in the performance review, I said the same thing. It's like, you can't do this, Now, what I would say, and I haven't done, and I don't know if I will, is like these DEI groups are setting themselves up to run directly into the Supreme Court decision, because affirmative action, and at least the equity piece, is very, very much alike. It's DEI is affirmative action by any name, right? So, do I like the idea of DEI in general, like this club of people that informally gets together and chats and tries to make everybody feel better? That is lovely. That's what we did in one of the companies I worked for this century. It wasn't policy and performance. It was policy in, hey, come and share, right? Which is perfect, right? Which is perfect. But that's not what's happening. Depending on what news kind of silo you listen to, the left or conservative, the left kind of still thinks affirmative action was wonderful. We've got to go back to that, and thank God there's DEI because it's protecting us and whatever. But if you listen to the other side, there's this constant string of people that have either been canceled with speeches, canceled from their organization, fired from their organization, marginalized by the corporation or public institution, mostly public institution, because the Biden administration has been funding grants to start stuff and giving privilege to those people that do have DEI to get grants. Also another problem, not another day. But at the end of the day, if you're the guys over here, you go, oh, this is kind of a problem. If you're guys over here, you've never heard of the problem. And it's a problem. I'm not a racist. I mean, I don't have a racist bone in my body. And yet, because I say that, it's evident to the people in DEI that I must be a racist, right? It's a conundrum. But at the end of the day, what I would say personally is I hope states take a look and saying, okay, we're not funding these things. And these are not going to be part of what we're doing. If you want to have clubs, great, go for it. In fact, I think the clubs will be much more effective than telling somebody. Now, imagine this: if you have a few racists in your midst, and they go to these voluntary trainings, you're not going to get less a racist. You're going to get an angrier racist, not a happier one, or a person that's less racist. So, how do you measure performance of all your great training? You can't. There's no meat Whereas if you go to a club and people begin showing up in greater and greater numbers, you kind of have a feeling maybe you're doing something right. Do this or do that. I don't know. So anyway, all I'm saying is wrong idea, wrong place, wrong time. Should never be institutionalized. Very, very dangerous, because what happens is people in those institutions get more and more powerful. Oh, by the way, and you love, this is how powerful and how blind they are to what they're doing. There was an article in the Wall Street about a guy saying, well, here was my position. At the end of the day, I was perfectly aligned to get this next job, and I was basically told I was the wrong gender and the wrong color. Holy crap. You know, this is institutionalism gone mad. It's kind of like having, you know, if we went back to the Soviet Union, every business, every institution had the political officer, a Soviet, right, in there that could nix anything. Just by saying, no, we're not doing that. It's not the way this should be. Anyway, DEI up or down? I say down. Thanks.